The LCTOP staff and I would like to congratulate Amar on her promotion to the Caltrans Office on Race and Equity. Amar has played an integral part in the development of the Low Carbon Transit Operations branch from its inception. She has administered over $524 million and over 851 projects. She has provided guidance through the many years in legislation, as well as streamlining the process for us all. The unification of the LCTOP team, both past and present, is due solely in part from Amar's leadership and support. It is through her leadership that this team has developed a true sense of family. And although she is no longer a part of the team, I want to emphasize that our commitment to you, the division, and to Caltrans in providing outstanding customer service and dedication to the program has not changed. Our goal is to continue fostering our relationships with you all, as well as meeting statewide goals, improving mobility, reducing greenhouse gas emissions, and benefiting disadvantaged and vulnerable communities. Amar, congratulations and thank you from all of us for your support through your tenure with LCTOP. Along with the Excel document, lead agencies will also need to complete, sign, and submit the Word document titled Signature Pages, and include the most recent approved Title VI document. The signature pages include the Authorized Agent form, certs and assurances, and the board resolution. The fiscal year 2021 allocation request has many of the same features as last year's request, including a drop-down list, auto-populating cells, calculating cells, and consistency cells. The consistency cells will show up red if the information within your allocation request is not consistent. All of these smart cells are meant to provide an improved allocation request, which is easier to complete and provides all the required information LCTOP staff need. So the light yellow cells have a drop-down list. The light blue cells auto-populate. And the light green cells are a calculation. And the red cells indicate inconsistencies and errors. So let's begin. On the allocation request, the first section is lead agency information. In this area, please place your agency's information, including your name, address, city, state, and zip code. The county is the first of our smart cells. The light yellow cells provide a drop-down list that allows you to choose the appropriate information. As you can see, both the county and regional entity cells have drop-down boxes. Please be sure to double-check this section since this is where the check will be mailed to. Moving on to the allocation request prepared by, this section you need to provide the name, title, phone number, and email of the person completing the allocation request. Your agency's contact if it is someone different from the person completing the allocation request and the authorized agent. LCTOP staff understands that these three boxes may contain information for three different people, or it may be the same person. To finish this section, please provide the legislative district numbers for the agency. You can find helpful websites on our useful links document. As you can see, these are the light yellow cells, which mean you can make a selection using a drop-down. The next section is the project summary. In this section, please provide information about your project, including name, a quick description, type and subtype. If the project is a rollover project, complete the total years of rollover and the remaining years of rollover. The remaining years of rollover excludes fiscal year 2021. If your project had a previous year of rollover, please follow the pop-up instructions and go to cells F43 and F44 on the next page and complete the prior column of the funding information. This section contains any of the prior LCTOP awarded funds associated with this rollover project. Next, we have the start and end dates. As a reminder, all projects that are not rolling over funds are required to start within 6 months of the award date. This date will be listed on the award letter. If this is not a rollover project, this start date will not allow you to enter a date more than 6 months from July 1st. Next, provide the general project area and provide specific project location in the Lat-Long tab. CARB has emphasized the importance in providing accurate location information. These can be bus stops, GTFs for operations projects, bus facility information, maintenance facility for capital projects, transit centers, etc. Please provide Lat-Long information in the decimal degrees format shown here. Do not provide location data in degrees, minutes, or seconds. Remember, the negative in the longitude column. If you need assistance getting this information, you can always use Google Maps. And now Joyce will provide an example.
Hi, everyone. So as we were saying, if you need some help getting your lat-longs from Google Maps, go ahead and type in any of your locations. This can be an address, or you can search and find your specific bus stops. So in this example, we're going to use our headquarters office. So we searched in Google Maps our address, and we're going to zoom in and hover over the location and do a right click. And here you'll see there's a lat-long right here. When you click on it, it's automatically copied to your clipboard. You can go back to our Excel. And then go ahead and type in the address or whichever bus stop you are trying to record and paste in the column what has been copied. Keep in mind that when you paste it, you have to separate out manually the lat and the long. So I'm going to go ahead and do that and remove the comma. And again, be sure to keep the negative sign in your longitude. Okay, so we'll have our data here. And next, make sure if you have a priority population in your service area to go ahead and select whichever priority population that the location is within. And if you need help figuring that out, we have in our useful links the AB 1550 map. Share this. So now we're on the AB 1550 map. We can type in the address again. Or you can just paste your lat and long that you just found from Google, and here you will receive this little pop-up, and it'll give you it'll let you know whether it's a DAC and or a low income within the buffer region. And when you're here, go ahead and also copy that census tract, because we're going to go back to our Excel sheet and head back to the Allocation Request tab, and the Census track is the information that's requested next. So go ahead and, I didn't copy it, but that's where this will go. Going back to the Lat-Long tab, I want to make sure we know that if you do have priority populations, be sure to enter at least one location point for each priority population that you're claiming. So here, if our project has benefits to all three priority populations, we're going to have one for a DAC, one for a low income, and one for the buffer region. Returning back to the Allocation Request tab, the next section is the project life. So for capital projects, state the project useful life in years. For operation projects, state the number of months that the service will be funded through LCTOP. So in this example, we're stating it's 10 years. Next, you'll complete the funding. So list the amount that this project is requesting for allocations, and be sure to separate out whether it is the 99313 funds or the 99314 funds. Here you'll see the green cell. This is an auto-calculated cell. Please do not copy and paste anything in here. And next we'll have the letter of no prejudice. If you have one, you would select yes, and also include the approval date. So now I'll pass it back to Nellie.
Thank you, Joyce. Okay, the next section is the funding information section. This is where we find another smart cell. The light blue cells are auto-populating cells. If the information in the light blue cells are incorrect, the cell will be highlighted in red. Please ensure that the 99313 and the 99314 amounts have been correctly inserted below, next to the lead agency box above the contributing sponsor. The lead agency needs to provide all of the funding associated with this project. If the prior column is orange, please check to ensure you have included the correct amount of prior year of LCTOP award. The funding information section also has the first of the consistency smart cells. Similar to the past few years, the smart cells compare answers in the cells between the funding information, funding plan, and the cost description sections to check for consistency. Inconsistency will be highlighted in red to alert you of any errors. Please note, there is a separate row for other GGRF funds and other funds. For example, GGRF funds could be HVIB or TRCP funds, or other can be local measure and TDA funds. Moving on to contributing sponsor. If your agency has a contributing sponsor, please include the contact person's name, phone number, and email, and the amount of funding, whether it is 99313 or 99314 funds. Once that is entered in, you will see the total at the bottom. Please submit the letter from the contributing sponsor documenting the funding amount that they are contributing. Moving on to the fully funded and project changes section. We have updated the fully funded project section. It now asks for a description of all funds to be utilized and how the project will not be supplanted. We are also requesting the inclusion of rollover amounts and project IDs to streamline the project tracking process. This information must match the years of rollover listed on page 1, as well as the prior column listed above. For the example we have listed here indicates that 30,000 of fiscal year 1920 LCTOP awarded funds. These funds include interest from a canceled LCTOP project future year, LCTOP rollover funds, and the fiscal year 2023 HVIP funds will all be used to completely fund the ZEV and infrastructure purchase. LCTOP funds will not supplant other funding sources. The project changes section requests for information about approved LCTOP caps that have added or removed funds into or from this rollover project. If this allocation request is not for a rollover project, please disregard this section. Any changes to the previous rollover year should be documented with the CAP approval date, project ID amount transferred, and also reflected in the prior column above. So our example indicates 20,097 plus 703 of interest from the approved CAP to cancel a previously awarded project, 1819, was applied to a 1920 project. The CAP approval date provided by your liaison is December 18th, 2019. The next section, the funding plan, is the section where the agency provides more detailed information about the funding from the funding information section. The funding plan section also has a couple of consistency smart cells. When you first get to this page, the proposed total project cost will be shown as a red arrow. This is because the total cost does not match the cells in the funding information section above. Disregard this for now and continue to fill out the funding plan. Do not cut and paste values within the section. You may break any equation associated with the cell associated with the cutting and pasting. LCTOP funds may not be used towards project approval, environmental document stage, plan specifications and estimates, and right-of-way stages. These rows, as you can see here, have been grayed out to prevent inputs. For funding sources aside from LCTOP, please continue below. When completed, check the top of page 3 again, and the cells should not indicate any errors. And now I will pass it on to Leslie.
So in this next section, the project information section is where we'd like to see clear and concise answers to just the questions being asked. If you need additional assistance in completing this section, please refer to the allocation request supplemental guidance for more details. Also, be sure to answer all the requested based on the project type. So for the project description, provide a comprehensive project description. For operations projects, include number of trips, span, frequency improvements, and number of days of operation. For capital projects, include product specification and identify all LCTOP funded components. The second section, project planning, provide a detailed explanation of the project planning process and how it was designed to avoid substantial burden on any low-income, disadvantaged, and vulnerable populations. Here, please also include any public outreach efforts, engagement events, community input, and workshops that were done for the project. Section 3, project costs. Provide a detailed explanation, itemized breakdown of project components, and describe how the cost estimations were developed. The total cost here must correspond to the funding information section that you completed above. So in this example, we have a capital project, and the total project cost is for the purchase of 2 Lightning electric zero-emission buses for $136,000 each, plus an electric charger for $40,800, totaling a project cost of $312,800. So this total must match what is indicated in the funding information section for total project cost. We'd also like to see a description of the cost breakdown for other sources that will be used project, as you indicated as other funds in the fund information and funding plan sections above. So for this example, of the total project costs, HVIP incentives will cover $160,000, an approved CAP, which transferred funds from a canceled project in the amount of $20,097 plus 703 interest, and prior year rollover funds of $30,000 plus any future remaining years of rollover funds would cover the remainder. On to the next section, Same as the previous page, please complete all sections per the guidance provided in each section. Agency fare, describe the fare structure for your system and how the project will affect that structure, if at all. Agency service area. Describe the agency service area, including the city, town, or community, whether it's rural, suburban, urban, and also describe the demographics. Last section, agency service. Describe the transit service provided and how the project plays into the overall operations. Here we've also provided space for you to include how COVID-19 has impacted transit service that's related to the project. We'd also like to direct your attention to the the Allocation Request Supplemental Guidance on page 9 of the FAQ to provide you with more guidance on COVID-19 impacts to LCTOP projects. So next, we're going to pass it back to Nellie. She's going to cover the project GHG benefits.
Thank you, Leslie. So moving on to the project GHG benefits section. The section has two sets of questions, qualitative questions and quantitative questions. The quantitative questions need to be answered with both a value and an explanation for the value. The explanation should explain why the value is as indicated and should provide consistent calculations with the value. Again, refer to the FAQ and supplemental guidance for how to address quantifying GHG reductions and ridership increase during a pandemic. As you complete this page, please notice that the total project ridership increase is calculated based on the project life and year 1, year F inputs. Year 1 is a drop-down, and it is the first year of service or year that the capital improvements will be completed, and provide an explanation such as final year of rollover and first year of service. Year F, final year, that the service is funded, or the final year of useful life for capital improvements. Next is the drop-down value, and then the explanation. And our example here is the estimated life of the project is 10 years. Next is project year 1 ridership increase. Estimated annual ridership contributed by the new service or capital improvement in year 1. Under value and explanation, example here is data shows ridership on our dial-a-ride service has decreased due to the COVID-19 pandemic by approximately 35% from 3,545 last year. Ridership increase in year 1 is the average total ridership in 2020. Project F, year ridership increase. Estimated annual ridership contributed by the new service or capital improvement in year F. And we have 2,179, and our explanation sample here states, to estimate ridership recovery post-pandemic, we assume constant 35% decline for the next 3 years and slowly recovering with a 25% increase for 2 years, 0.5% 2 years, and back to 1% increase in the final years. Next is the adjustment. The adjustment factor to account for choice riders. You may use default values listed in the supplemental guidance document. And here we have 0.540, and for the explanation, we have default adjustment factor for local short trip. Next is trip length. Miles of average auto trip reduced, or average passenger trip length in miles. You may use defaults listed in the supplemental guidance. So we have 3.75 listed here, and our explanation is average passenger trip length based on 2018 ridership survey summary. The city spans about 6 miles north-south and 4.3 east-west. At this point, you will notice that there are incomplete inputs for the GHG emission reduction calculation, and you will need to complete the QM, or the Benefits Calculator tool tab, in order to have a complete allocation request with the estimated GHG reduction. LCTOP staff has continued to integrate the tool into the allocation request, reducing the amount of information needed to be entered in the tool itself. As you fill out this tab, follow the guidance in the description column and complete everything that is designated as required. Be sure to complete the sections in order. The yellow cells indicate drop-down, green are required inputs, gray are auto-populated, and blue are optional. As you can see here, you only need to enter into the service type, which is a drop-down, as well as the type of region and region. And to the right of that, you will see that those three are required inputs. And as you continue to scroll down the tool, always be aware of column D, which states what is required. Once you are done entering in the required info, you can go back to the allocation request project GHG Benefits page, and at the bottom you will now see the values that are calculated from the tool. Pay attention to the pop-up reminders as you complete the sections, as well as the headings in orange, and be sure to reach out to your liaison with any questions that you may have. And now I will pass it on to Joyce.
So next we have the project benefits section. So the first section we see is the job support benefits section. And please refer to the LCTOP guidelines and the CARB co-benefits website for more information. So here you will select your primary project activity. This is a drop-down. And then also include the percentage of the project budget that's associated with this activity that you just chose. Continue and select up to 3. And make sure that the percentages must total to 100%. Next, we have the travel cost savings benefits section. Please refer to page 5 of the supplemental guidance for assistance. So from last year's, we did have a small update. We changed what used to be called the standard fare, and it is now called the baseline average one-way fare cost. And what used to be the reduced fare is now called the new average one-way fare cost. So the baseline average one-way fare cost is the fare amount that a passenger would pay for the service prior to the LCTOP project implementation. This amount is the average of all regular and discounted fare options associated with the service. So the example we have here, this value is $1.50. And you will also provide an explanation for why you are inputting this value here. The new average one-way fare cost is the new expected average fare cost resulting from the proposed LCTOP project. This amount is the average of the newly reduced fare cost for all regular and discounted fare options associated with the service. So because this project has no impact to the fare structure, this is the same as our baseline. Next, we have the transit facility parking cost. This is the average expected cost to a passenger to park at the transit facility and then to utilize the transit service associated with the project. Consider that not all transit riders may use the parking. However, the calculations will already take into account that parking is only paid once per round trip, so unlike last year, please do not divide this value by 2 in order to account for the one-way trips. That is already done for us in the back end in the calculations. So again, put the value here and provide an explanation. Here, because it's a dial ride service, we have no transit facility parking costs associated to it. Next, we have the avoided parking cost. The avoided parking cost is the expected cost that a passenger would have paid to park in the service area. It is an avoided cost due to the passenger saving the parking cost by riding transit associated to the project. The calculations, again, will take into account that you don't have to divide by 2. Next, we have the avoided toll cost. The avoided toll cost is the average cost that a passenger would have paid to cross the toll if not using the service associated to the project. It is an avoided cost due to the passenger saving the toll cost by riding transit. Next, we have the transit mode share section. So the lead agency must provide a description of how the proposed project will increase transit mode share, or alternative modes of driving such as transit use, biking, walking, and or carpooling. Next, we have the co-benefits. So please select with the letter X all of the co-benefits that apply to this project, and then explain how the proposed project may have additional benefits besides reducing greenhouse gas emissions and increasing transit mode share. So for this project, we selected improved safety, improved public health, increase in system reliability. And our description says, new zero-emission electric vehicles will be replacing our old diesel vehicles, so passengers in the local community will suffer from fewer tailpipe pollutants. Newer vehicles will also be held to stricter safety standards and are less likely to break down, therefore making the service more reliable and comfortable. So next, Courtney will describe and walk you through the priority population benefits section.
I think you're still on mute, Courtney.
Thanks. So the priority population benefits sections only had a few updates, and I'm going to run through them pretty slowly just to make sure everyone sees the changes. So for starters, you're an agency that has a disadvantaged community. We have the drop-down where you would select yes or no. Following the subset of questions, you would then define using the drop-downs if your project is located within the census tract of a disadvantaged community or low-income community, or within a half mile. And then bringing back last year, we have another drop-down section for you to assess the community engagement that went into this project. And we have a attachment that's also, we have the underline for the guidelines is where you can find more information on how you would score your project for low, medium, or high. We understand that during COVID, this may have fluctuated or changed normally, but for agencies that were still able to find a way of doing outreach or even communicate digitally, that's still a good thing for us to note within our program. And then going down again, for the dollar amounts that correspond with your project, you would enter that here. So just to clarify, if you are an agency that is submitting multiple projects that all benefit disadvantaged communities, we want to make sure that you partition that dollar amount reflective in this cell right here. So if you received a total award of $200,000 and you have 4 projects that all benefit disadvantaged communities, then we would want you to put $50,000 for each. And then moving down, we have the next section where you would describe the method used for identifying the need related to this project. You have a drop down right here. You click on the drop down, and then that would give you an A, B, C, or D ranking. CARB generally prefers the A or B. So if you're an agency that hosted meetings or received documentation, we would like you to select that. If you did select D, for example, then you would need to specify in the bottom row what exactly was the determining factor for how this project met the need within the community. And then scrolling down just a little bit, we get to the community needs description. And here is where you would describe, the agency would describe how this project meets the need. And so there's a difference between the subsequent section, but just to articulate, through the planning process, you would then put in the information here describing how this project meets the need to serve the disadvantaged community. And then scrolling down a little bit more, we get to our next section. So this is new for this year, where we're identifying the benefit associated with this project. Now, Joyce added for all of the agencies, just to make it easier, the aggregated list of drop-down, or the drop-down that has all of the permutations related to how this project could need a benefit. So it could be all 3, it could be just a disadvantaged community, and however the benefit is associated with this project, there is a selection within this drop-down menu for you to pick, just to save a little bit of time. And once you've selected the benefit, then you would select the benefit that this project, so using the drop-down, you click on the drop-down, then you'd select the criteria in which that benefit falls under. Once you've selected that criteria, you would scroll down and then describe how this project is benefiting the disadvantaged community. And so the difference between this and the section above is the section above is identifying the need associated, how this project meets the need. And then on this section here, you're describing how the project's actually benefited. So this can either be through, if your project went through the public engagement process and the public constituents are telling you, this is why we need this project, or this is why we're in support, you could use that language in the priority population benefits section. And then scrolling down to the last part, we get to the SB 1119 criteria. So as you see now, for agencies that may be using this, everything is grayed out. Don't worry, there is a way to ungray it, and it follows how an agency is actually eligible to use SB 1119. So at the top of the priority populations benefits section, you have to have a disadvantaged community. So you select yes. Does your agency service area have a disadvantaged community? Then you would select, is the project located within the boundaries of a disadvantaged community? You would select no. Now, selecting no, as you see, blocks out the dollar amount associated with the project, because if this is because how we're recording information for the dollar amount benefits is for projects that are specifically targeting the priority population. So if you're using SB 1119, then the benefit is within the whole system, and it's not within that specific priority population. And based on how we're recording that information, we're graying it out. Now, the next step is you would scroll down, and you'd see that SB 1119 section is now open. So now, based on the 3 criteria that are eligible to use SB 1119, you would select from the drop-down either yes or no. Now, if you select yes for the bottom question, or for the bottom, which is the project new or expanded transit service that connects with a transit service serving disadvantaged community, we want you to explain how. So that's where this box gets ungrayed, and then you would provide information here. And so just to kind of run through again, in order to use SB 1119, if you are a transit agency that has a disadvantaged community, you would need to select first yes, that you have a disadvantaged community, and then if the second question below, you need to select no. And so with that, just scrolling through that again, thanks to Joyce, that's how the SB 1119 criteria would open up. And with that, I'm going to hand it back to Joyce to kind of go over CalEnviroScreen real quick.
Thank you, Courtney. So moving back to our map tab. Okay. Before I go over the CalEnviroScreen and how to find your census tracts, one thing I forgot to mention is while you're on the AB 5050 map, which is also provided here, make sure you provide a screen cap so that we can see which priority populations you are claiming. So just be sure to provide the screen cap of your service area and just paste it into this map tab. Let's see, going back to CalEnviroScreen. Okay. So if you are unsure of your census tracts, go ahead and Google CalEnviroScreen 3.0, and you'll be taken to this page, or select the OEHA website, and you will be on this page. Scroll down to past the map, and here you'll see there is a Microsoft Excel spreadsheet. Go ahead and download the CS3 results, and that will give you this document. Excel. Okay. So here you'll find that you can search through county, zip code, or a nearby city. And you can see that there are census tracts for the location you have narrowed down to. Please do not use this Lat-Long please do not use this Lat-Long as what we're requesting in the allocation request, since this is a location for the census tract and not your project-specific location points. Here you can also find all the indicators that qualified your community as an SB 535 disadvantaged community. Okay. Now I'll pass back to Nellie. I think we're going to go ahead and answer some questions. I'm going to unmute everyone. Just give me a second.
Thank you, Joyce. So at this point, we wanted to go over the timeline that you see here. We have our next workshop coming up on February 17th. Our deadline for the allocation request will be March 31st. We are still waiting to hear back on the eligibility list. I've been checking daily on that, so I have not heard back on that yet. But as soon as we receive that, we'll send that out to you. I wanted to take some time to go over the draft. I wanted to take some time to go over the guidelines, but we noticed that the changes and revisions that we did to the guidelines did not save. So we are going to redo that and update that and send that out to everyone prior to the next workshop on February 17th. So I apologize for that. But we're going to open it now for questions, if anyone has any questions.
So if you have any questions, go ahead and unmute yourself, and then we'll also go through the Q&A column later. Are you guys able to unmute yourself? I guess we can go over the Q&A.
Hi, this is Gregoria. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, super. So I'm in District 10. My name's Gregoria Ponce. I'm Chief of Rural Planning, and we work really closely with our partners overall. And a lot of times we get questions that are outside of our menu, if you will. And a lot of times we refer folks to DRMT or other offices for funding opportunities. And I was just wondering if, I'm looking at, well, first of all, great presentation. Thank you for going over those items. I'm noticing the transit operators were notified of available funds for the fiscal year. Has that already occurred? Is that correct?
Are you talking about the eligibility list?
So I'm looking at the LCTOP timeline. Possibly. Is that what the second entry says when it says FCO notifies transit operators of available funds for the fiscal year?
Yes. So the eligibility list has not been released yet, but as soon as we receive that, we will send that out.
Super, because I'd really like to share that just as an informational. I attend various board meetings, and my team attends various TACs for the rural counties that we assist, and any information that we can provide for any type of funding that they should be considering, we want them to know about that, even though we know we're not directly involved. So thank you for clarifying that. I appreciate it.
Yes. Please keep an eye out for that. We will send that out as soon as we receive it. I've been checking daily for it.
Thank you so much, Nellie. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thanks for attending.
Last question. This timeline for fiscal year 2021, is this something that I can share, verbally? I don't know if I'll grab it and show it. I mean, but is that something that I can share, say, at a TAC meeting?
Sure.
With our transit partners when we're attending?
Sure. Feel free to share the timeline.
Okay. Is there any way I can either have someone send me a snapshot, or I'm allowed to grab, because I can't grab it right now, but is there intent to either send I know the materials were sent out and I got that, but if I could just get a snap of this and send to me, that would be fabulous. Thank you.
Yeah, we can go ahead and email it to you, but it was included in the files sent yesterday as a PowerPoint.
Oh, gotcha. Well, then I'll grab it from there. Thank you. Thank you, Joyce.
Yeah. Okay. Nellie, should we read the questions that came in that we've already answered?
Yeah, I was going to see if...
Okay, so the first question is, where can we find the zip file? And so we sent out, or Nellie sent out the email yesterday, including all the files. But again, please wait until we resend out the guidelines that have the revisions that we've made. Where do you put the ID? What do you put in the ID column on the Lat-Long tab? Okay. So on the Lat-Long tab, the ID column could be for the bus route, like if you're putting bus stops, you can include which route that is located on. And that's the same goes for the number column. And there's a question asking if there's a single location that serves multiple priority populations, which one do we list in that drop-down box in the spreadsheet? So make sure you, if it is a DAC, make sure you at least have the DAC. You can repeat the Lat-Long and go ahead and select whichever other priority population it represents, but prioritize the DAC. If the application is to purchase a zero-emission bus, would the Lat-Long just be the facility that it leaves and returns from? Yes, it could be any of your bus yards or maintenance facilities. It can also be any of your bus stops. Sorry,
I think there was a question on what is a rollover project? So a rollover project is a project where you accumulate funds of up to 4 years to purchase a capital project, such as a zero-emission bus. Oh, someone shared their email, so they can be added to the email contact list. And someone wanted to know if a recording of the presentation will be made available later for viewing, and that is a yes.
The recording, hopefully we can get it out by next week. And I think we're going to try to send it through email since our website is tricky these days.
Let's see. If the project is supposed to start 6 months from the award, it takes far longer than that to project. I think it was trying to project projects within the FTIP, and even longer to have an approved grant. Can this be addressed? Yeah, that's difficult. I mean, you could still submit your allocation request with the same, time frame that fits within the LCTOP guidelines. And if you needed more time, you would probably have to submit a cap to change the time frame, but that is how we are basing our projects, that you must start within 6 months from the award. But we can talk more, Nancy, if you have any other questions on that offline. Where can we find the zip file and useful links? That was submitted in the email that went out. So maybe it's possible that you didn't receive it. So please make sure that you send us your an email to your liaison. And Joyce has put up the liaison contact. How did you get to the CalEnviroScreen? How do you get to the CalEnviroScreen?
Yeah, so if you just, on your browser, you can search for CalEnviroScreen 3.0, and it would be the OEHA link. I also pasted the link into the answer.
Oh, thank you, Joyce. Let's see. Would integration of contactless payment methods qualify as an eligible project under operational expenditures that increase transit mode share? David, I think we would need to talk about this one. I need to know a little bit more information on that. So who has last? And I think it's Jackie. Jackie and I can give you a call on that one. Let's see. Metro offers the agency's ability to trade LCTOP funds for other local funding sources. They request that we make the request with them directly, but I was wondering.
I think the question cut off.
Yeah, I think it cut off, Viviana. I can give you a call. I'll give you a call since that one got cut off. Do we know roughly if the allocations are expected to be lower, the same, or higher than last year? It is definitely going to be lower. I think last year it was 146 million. I think this year it's going to be 84.
Oh, the rest of the question is there any documentation that needs to be submitted to you to make you aware of our intent to exchange LCTOP funds? From Viviana.
No, because I believe that is done between you and Metro. Yeah, I don't think you have to. I'm not sure. Would you have to do a contributing sponsor since you're now giving your funds to Metro? Let me find out, Viviana. Let me ask about that one. I'll get back to you on that one. Kent had a question. My question is, has eligibility changed much from the last cycle? Yes, it's much lower, unfortunately. Can you talk a bit about add a promotional cost for community involvement? And then question is it eligible? So this is from Dan. I'm not sure if you're asking if you're going to do an operations project and then you want to do some type of promotional material along with that, or if you're talking about doing a free fare project and you want to do some type of promotional material with that, and is that eligible? Yes, it would be. A small portion of it would be eligible to do for those types of projects. Let's see, Dorothea Watkins asked, in the files that were sent, do any of them outline examples of eligible projects? So we did send out a sample project, the one that we went through today, and then we will have another sample project for the February 17th one, and we'll be sure to send out the sample to everyone. Is the allocation form going to change, or can we start the allocation form prior to the revised guidelines being sent out? You can go ahead and do your allocation request. We're no longer going to make any changes to the allocation request. It is just to the guidelines itself. But yes, you can get started on that and submit a draft to us. The earlier, the better. We will no longer receive drafts after March 5th, just in preparation for the March 31st allocation request. So if you can start working on your projects, if you have an idea of what type of projects you'd like to get out, we recommend that you get those out to your liaisons as soon as possible so we can work with you on getting those through and correcting any mistakes. Do all fair projects. So this might be a question for Courtney. Courtney, do all free fair projects require a yes response under SB 1119 project criteria section?
No. So SB 1119 was really intended for agencies that were trying to have system-wide benefits, but didn't necessarily want to enter in the information for how their project would benefit priority populations and disadvantaged communities. So we normally would say that a free fair project as a service-wide benefit would benefit. If you're an agency that has a priority population, then we would want you to count that and describe it. SB 1119 was for a few agencies that had, I guess, unique project types that were trying to, and I don't want to put words in the agency's mouth, but to answer your question, if you're having a free fair project that benefits the priority population, we want you to record that and describe that within the project allocation. So you would not select SB 1119. You would select which type of benefit that your free fair project has towards the disadvantaged or low-income community. And then from there, you would kind of follow the pathway for determining the type of benefit this project has, and then describing how it benefits and, you know, what engagement went into the development of this project.
Thank you, Courtney. What else do we have here? Are you going to send a new zip file containing all of the latest and greatest documents, or will you send just the revised guidelines document? No, we will send a new zip file with everything for the next workshop, which is February 17th. Sorry, I lost my place here in the Q&A. We have a question. Is the application to be submitted electronically or hard copies to be mailed as last year? Please do not submit any hard copies this year. Please submit everything electronically. Next question is, does the approved board resolution have to be included with the allocation request, or can it be pending from the March 31st date? If you do not have an approved board resolution at the time of the submittal, you can go ahead and submit a draft board resolution along with your allocation request that you submit on March 31st, and we'll go ahead and accept that until your board meets and you have an approved resolution. My Q&A keeps resetting. It goes back to the beginning. Let me go back and try and find where I was. There's a question here. Would remodeling a transit hub center be an eligible project under LCTOP? Depending on what you're going to be doing. So say, for instance, you're going to do a remodeling of the transit hub center to, say, install solar panels, that would be an eligible project. But if you need to ask more questions, please reach out to your liaison. What is this one? The timeline is a bit condensed and could make it difficult to get board resolutions by March. Can we submit a draft? Yes, a draft can be submitted. We can roll over funds for multiple years to purchase something at the end of that time. When we begin to spend the funds, how long do we have to expend them all? So you have 4 years to expend your funds. Will the LCTOP staff be available to review our allocation forms prior to submission? This was done in the past. Yes, we will be accepting drafts in advance.
Nellie, can you repeat?
Yeah.
Can you repeat when the deadline for us to do the draft allocation request before we cut off again? Because there's a few questions about that one.
Yes, the deadline for the draft allocation request submittals will be March 5th. So please get those in now up until March 5th. We're asking for time before we get busy. So if you have those ready, the liaisons will be able to help you in correcting anything wrong with your project or to answer any questions. Thank you, Jackie. Let's see. How would rolling over years of funding work for a future electrification infrastructure project if you do not know the final cost of such a project? Oh, my Q&A keeps jumping, so as I was reading it, it moved, so I can't find the question now.
Nellie, I can read it.
Okay.
It says, how would rolling over years of funding work for a future electrification infrastructure project if you do not know the final cost of such a project when starting to apply for LCTOP funds? So Mike, I think I answered you somewhere else, but we can definitely work on this offline. This is a pretty common rollover project with LCTOP. So we would need some sort of estimation, and this can be based off of previous projects that are very similar. We would ask for a quote potentially so that we have something to work off of. But general advice is to always overestimate what the total project cost is, since once you award the first year, you cannot go back and increase the total without substantially increasing the project scope to provide more benefits. But we can work on this offline.
Someone said, just to confirm, you said allocation is likely reduced from last year of 146 million to this year 84 million. And yes, that is correct. Someone asked, what does HH stand for? HH stands for household.
There's a question asking, does the board resolution depend on the amount requested in the grant? The answer is yes, since it needs to list the project amount.
Thank you, Joyce. Will the workshop on February 17th be covering the same thing as this one? Yes, except for the workshop on the 17th, we will go over the draft guidelines, the final guidelines, and any changes that were made.
And also a different project.
Yes, thank you, Joyce. We'll be going over a different project sample. Does anyone want to unmute themselves and ask a question?
Let me go ahead and unmute everyone and then really quickly mute everyone again. That way you should be able to unmute yourself after.
Yeah, have we missed anyone's question that typed in the Q&A? I've been trying to document everyone's questions.
If we missed your question, go ahead and send us an email after.
Yeah, I've documented all the emails that have came in. We've answered some, we haven't answered others. If we haven't answered some of your questions, like Joyce said, please submit an email to the LCTOP box.
Thank you, Jackie, for documenting those. We can go make sure that we answer those and send them to the person.
Leslie brought up a good point to always refer to the AR supplemental guidelines. We worked really hard on that to make it hopefully easier and for you guys to have a reference as you complete your allocation request. So if you have a question, go there first, and then if your question is not answered, feel free to reach out to us.
Yes, that's a good point. I really like the supplemental guidance that you guys worked on. It looks really good. It should be very helpful to everyone. If there are no more questions, we can go ahead and end the workshop. Please, if you have any questions, you can send any questions to your liaison that's listed here. It's our contact information. Our next workshop is February 17th, and as we mentioned, we'll be covering a new project. We'll be sure to send the links for that as well, so keep an eye out for that. But I want to thank everyone that worked on this. Joyce, Courtney, Jackie, and Leslie, thank you all so much for everything, and thanks to you all for joining us. I hope you enjoyed it and found it helpful. Please reach out to us with any questions we didn't get to, and we'll be sure to finish answering the questions that came through on the Q&A. Thank you all so much.